Hey everyone, Jane Slack-Smith here. Now, I was just interviewing Nicole Gibson on Exit the Matrix Stories of Success podcast. And, the inTruth Technologies business that she is currently founder of and working with in San Francisco just blew my mind. And when she talked about a wearable that for the first time in history can actually help us understand the emotions that we're going through, I was like, Nick, we need to know more. So Nick, tell me about the wearable and how it works. What does it do?
Sure. Okay, so we'll try to keep it 101 and then we can go deeper if that feels good. But basically, we've found a way to move heart rate variability data, so through a wearable just like this one, but really any wearable because we're agnostic, wearable agnostic, that has a PPG sensor, which is what's gauging, that's right, your Fitbit uses a PPG sensor to track heart rate variability. We move that into a machine learning model, which translates what's called valence and arousal. And the intersection of valence and arousal, if you imagine those two intersections as a quadrant, the arousal line is the y-axis and the valence line is the x-axis. When you combine these two data points, you get the insight into the emotion, basically. Now, why that's revolutionary is most of these wearables. Valence, sorry, is sentiment. So it's a scale of pleasantness. It's otherwise known as motivation. So are you physiologically attracted to something or are you repelled from it, combined with your state of stress? So if you imagine you're in a highly aroused state with a positive sentiment at its extreme, you're probably elated or really, really, really excited. Yeah, at its extreme. If you're on the unpleasant side of the sentiment scale or the valence scale and you're low arousal at the extreme, you're probably depressed or really sad. Negative sentiment, highly aroused, you might be anxious, you might be frustrated, you might be angry, depending on where you sit on that matrix, basically. So most heart rate variability wearables are just tracking your arousal line, which is why it's telling you your fitness level, your stress score. So what's novel about our technology is we've trained using machine learning, we've trained heart rate variability to also be able to detect the valence line, which then gives the emotional insight.
Wow. Look, I've been listening to Lisa Feldman Barrett's book on emotions, and she goes back to the fact that we probably were misinformed as children when we had pictures of, this is happy, this is sad, this is angry. And she's now disproven the fact that we can't tell from people's faces. So it makes sense that sometimes we need something a little bit more to let us be aware of what's going on. So if we are aware of the sentiment and the motivation and the score of our emotion, what do we do with that?
Yeah, so I really love Lisa's work, and I'm glad that you've referenced it because Lisa's work has been really in many ways so supported our team to like check some of our biases around how we're developing this tech. We also reference the circumplex model a lot, which is the valence arousal model of emotion. But there's almost something really interesting preliminary as an answer to your question that I'd just love to show because it highlights I think for people that maybe hear that and they're like, what do you mean emotion's not real? I think that there's a bit more nuance, right, to that statement. Emotion as we understand it is not what emotion actually is. And even for me that spent many, many, many years working as a facilitator with people and feeling like I deeply understood emotion, our research into this space, the AI, our research into this space has really thrown some of my original ideas of what emotion was. And I'll give you an example. When you ask the question, what emotion are you feeling? From a scientific perspective, this is a fundamentally incorrect question. And I'm just going to show you one of the models that we use in our tech, which really helps illustrate this because I think it can be easier to see. So this is stimulus that we're being exposed to, all the time, that our nervous system is being exposed to environmental stimulus. Within 200 milliseconds, you experience a raw emotion. Now, when you subjectively process that raw emotion, it becomes a feeling. And we consistently confuse these two things because the feeling is the judgment. It's the thing that you make the emotion mean. And that can only happen once you've become cognizant of the aggregation of actually probably, 20 to 30 emotions by the time you've called it something. But we believe, because of our language, and I think it's a limitation of language, and Lisa also talks about this in her own way, the limitation of language has made us believe that emotion is happy, sad, so on, so on. But actually, these labels are our subjective overlay of what that emotion actually is. What emotion actually is simply just this data point. So it's the intersection of the valence and arousal. Now, you could define it maybe here as amused or excited or joyous, but that's a different dimension to the emotional experience that moves into feeling. Now, when that feeling aggregates over hours, it becomes a mood, and when that mood aggregates over weeks and months, it becomes a state of being. And this is ultimately the full spectrum of what's driving our behavior, because our baseline state is really what's driving our behavior. So for the first time ever, this technology is getting to the layer that actually self-reflection can't, because our brain can't think fast enough to quantify and determine the emotion that we're experiencing. And yet 80% of our decision making is emotional. So when we think about change, for your audience, if they're wanting to change their life, 80% of that's contingent on the emotional patterns that govern them. And right now, there's no way that they have visibility over that.
You know what's so fascinating with that is that, when we say, and I honestly believe, with a greater heightened sense of awareness now, since work I've done with Win White Cloud and Natural Success, is that those thoughts and feelings aren't real. There's something underlying it. And we think of, Dr. Joe Dispenza that says we get 400 billion pieces of information a second, but we can only take in 2,000. Therefore, what is our brain that is, essentially an energy efficient machines going, well, quickly, let's go back to an experience or something that we can refer to. And we're living out those things. So it really is extraordinary that definition between emotion and feeling, it can really be defined really for the first time. And we have that almost like a circuit breaker that says, wait a second, what you're experiencing here may not be real. Let's have a look at the wearable and go, what is essentially your heart telling you?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm glad you used that term, circuit breaker, because this is really how we kind of see it, that when you have visibility over this, that not real thing is the meaning that you make, right? So we're tracking the objectivity over here, but all of this is just the human brain and the product of the past and the beliefs and all of the things that, pretty much 99.9% of the time had nothing to do with the emotion. So you might be experiencing a series of emotions. I don't know, I can hear someone yelling out my window right now, right? That's causing me to experience on a nervous system level a series of triggered emotions that maybe after 10 or 10 seconds, I might be like, I'm feeling anxious. But my brain might tell me the reason you're experiencing that anxiety is because, I don't know, you had an anxiety disorder when you were 10 years old and blah, 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 blah. And it actually really has nothing to, we get taken out of the present moment, which is where we have the power. If we're to return to the present moment, this is where we have the power to really become the creator of our reality. But it's these associations, environmental triggers, which are throwing us into our past consistently. Joe Dispenza says, break the habit of being yourself. This is how you break the habit of being yourself, is coming to this the 0 point in every single moment. But all of these things that are governing our association that pull us back into our past, we've never really been able to look under the hood in a way that, our team believe that this technology will finally give people the ability to do.
Yeah, what's extraordinary, well, what strikes me there is that once people have this tool, there has to be an ongoing support of recognizing then how to act. Do you have education or ways that you support this once it is going to be unleashed onto the world?
Absolutely, yeah. So, like I mentioned, Love Out Loud is a community, and we have education, and there's a big kind of movement of people around not just this one product, but a suite of things that we offer that are already doing that work, but on a technical level, one of the features I'm most excited about is combining the tech with generative AI. And then you can really start to talk to inTruth like a personalized coach. So you could say to inTruth, hey, I want to know how I'm going in my relationship with my partner. Can you go back and tag all the time I've spent with my partner the last few months? And it knows that because of analysis through voice. So you're speaking to it and you're journaling or you're writing, also calendar integration. So it's meta tagged all of that, and it's categorized and mapped your emotion against the activities that you were doing throughout the day. So you could say, go back and tag all the time I've spent with my partner the last 3 months and give me an analysis on how I'm going in that relationship. And the AI will actually give you a full report, and you can further communicate to it and say, okay, so I'm dysregulated in this way and this way and this way. Can you give me a path to become more regulated in that relationship? And it knows the things that regulate you. So then it's able to really, guide you to this place where you're becoming hopefully more and more regulated.
It's interesting, you talk about, all these ways that society is going to change, and, governance and these fears and worries about technology and how it can affect our lives. But it can also liberate us, right? It can give us knowledge and insights that makes us and the world better. So I'm just so very excited about seeing this come to play. So how long is it going to be until we can actually start buying this? Or maybe there's some investors out there who want to invest in it. How long have we got in the time frame?
Yeah, so we actually release our public beta in 2 weeks. So I think by the time this episode goes live, all of your listeners should be able to try this. If they want to jump on, you just go to intruth.io and join our beta, and you'll be sent the instructions to get the wearable and be onboarded to our public beta. And we're also going to market through our partnership with BioStrap into first responders and police and veterans, which we're really, really excited about, which is also happening in the next few weeks. So
amazing. And so can people download it to their own wearable? I need a specific one at this stage.
For the beta, we only are accessible on BioStrap. Although over time, we will definitely integrate with some of the leading consumer wearables. It's also contingent on as and when they open their what's called a public API. The trend in the space right now, the Aura CEO, the Whoop CEO, I think as well, said recently that they were very much considering opening the API to products like, us basically, so you can build on that hardware. So our team think it's just a matter of time. But the great news too is that BioStrap are going to be releasing a ring in the next 6 months. So if the strap is not of interest, then a ring will also be available for those that aren't already married to a wearable and you're considering investing in one. I highly recommend them, not just because they're our partner, but they have a really, really good clinical device, and it's a really great product. And even the BioStrap app, the way that it analyzes metrics is really brilliant. I don't want to put down any other wearable, but from my experience, I've tried a lot of them. It really gives a depth of insight that I haven't found in any other product.
And just, I guess, to address the question around privacy, the information, where does that live?
Yeah, it's a great question. So eventually we want to, as a team, find private servers probably in the country of origin that the user's in. That's a very complex problem to solve, and it's a new problem because biotech is an emerging space, right? So we're confident we will find a local solution in the coming year or two. But what we're doing temporarily is we have private servers that are hosted on AWS, but what we're doing is segregating your identification data with your raw data. So these two pieces of data will actually be stored in different servers. So if one of our servers, God forbid, was hacked, maybe we know your name and your age, but we have none of your raw data, or we have your raw data, but we don't know who you are. So this is sort of quite a good layer of protection.
Yeah.
It's not our sort of end game solution, but we're confident that this solution will protect you and your identity, which for now is the most important thing.
I guess being someone who's worn a Fitbit for 10 years, I've never even questioned where the data is. So, you know, there you go.
Should. You
All
should.
these new questions. Well, look,
Mhm.
thank you so very much, Nick. I really appreciate your time. This has just added an absolute next level to where things are going. So inTruth.io, head over there, check it all out. I really encourage people to get an understanding of the difference between your feelings and emotions. Who knew that we can actually monitor this now? And I really appreciate you being here, Nick, as always, and thank you so very much.
Thanks, Jane. Appreciate it.